Dark clouds covered the sky above the small human colony. The wind howled across the dry plains, carrying dust and the scent of rain. Jake stood at the edge of the outer fence, scanning the sky with narrowed eyes. He had seen storms before, but this one looked different. Then came the alert. "Unidentified ship entering atmosphere," said the colony. AI Jake grabbed his coat and rifle. Years ago, he had been a soldier, trained to face anything. Now, he just wanted peace. But trouble had a way of finding him. He got into his old rover and headed toward the crash site. He reached the area in 10 minutes. Smoke curled into the sky. A small alien ship had slammed into the ground, tearing a long path through the dry earth. The ship's side was cracked, its hull sparking with fading energy. Jake approached carefully. A sound came from inside, weak and slow footsteps. Then the ship's door opened with a hiss. Out stepped a tall alien male, wounded and swaying on his feet. His skin was a pale blue with glowing lines across his arms and chest. He looked straight at Jake with tired golden eyes. "You," the alien said, voice low. "You saved me once, ... years ago. Battlefield, ... Double quotes. Jake frowned. Didn't recognize the alien, but something about his face seemed familiar. Maybe from the border skirmishes during the Old War. Maybe not. "Name?" Jake asked, lowering his weapon. "Derenic," the alien said. "I need ... shelter. One night, then I leave." "You're lucky you didn't burn up," Jake said. "Come on, we'll talk inside." We brought Derenic to his small home. On the edge of the colony, Jake didn't ask too many questions. The alien was bleeding and weak. He gave him food, patched up his wounds, and let him rest. Derenic barely spoke. He just stared out the window, watching the storm roll in at midnight. Jake woke to footsteps. He grabbed his rifle and checked the main room, but Derenic was gone. The door was open. Rain fell lightly outside. Jake stepped out, looking for signs. Instead, he saw two new figures standing under the porch light. One was a woman, tall and graceful, with soft blue skin and silver eyes. The other was a little girl, no older than 6, clinging to her mother's side. Both looked scared, and cold, on the table inside was a small recording device. Jake played it. Derenic's voice came through, calm and deep. "Jake, if you're hearing this, then I am gone. Years ago, you pulled me from fire during a battle. I should have died, but you saved me and said nothing. You never asked for thanks. I never forgot." There was a pause in the message. "I made enemies. I tried to bring peace to my people, but they called me a traitor. Now they hunt me. I can't protect my family anymore. I have nowhere safe to take them, so I leave them with you. This is how I repay my debt." Jake stood still, holding the device in silence. The voice continued, "Illyra is my wife. Luma is our daughter. Protect them. Raise them. I trust no one else. You are the only human I owe my life to. I believe you are the only one who will keep them safe." The message ended with static. Jake looked at the woman and child again. Illyra bowed her head slowly. Her face was calm, but her hands trembled. Luma peeked out from behind her, her eyes wide and curious. "We won't cause trouble," Illyra said softly. "We just need time and safety." Jake didn't speak for a moment. The rain pattered against the roof. Thunder rolled in the distance. "You two come inside," he said finally. "Dry off. Then we'll talk." Lyra nodded and entered the house, holding her daughter close. Jake brought them towels and warm food. Luma ate slowly, stealing glances at Jake between bites. "How long were you with him?" Jake asked. "Many cycles," Illyra said. "We lived quietly, but as people. They did not forgive him for speaking against the council, and now they want you too." "Yes." Jake leaned back in his chair. He had built this home for peace, for silence. He had not expected to share it, not with an alien woman and child left behind by a man he'd barely remembered. But the words in the recording echoed in his mind. "You are the only one who will keep them safe." Luma finished her food and yawned. Illyra guided her to the extra room. Jake set up a sleeping mat. The girl smiled shyly and whispered, "Thank you." They settled in. Jake stood alone by the window. Lightning lit up the sky. He didn't know what he had gotten into. Something in his gut told him this wasn't just about a debt. It was about something much bigger. Jake woke early the next morning. The storm had passed, but clouds still hung low in the sky. The house was quiet, except for the soft hum of the kitchen generator and the chirping of small birds outside. He made breakfast. Unsure what Illyra and Luma would eat, tried to keep it simple: bread, fruit, warm broth. Just as he placed the bowls on the table, he heard small footsteps. Luma entered first. Her hair was slightly messy, and she held a small pillow like a shield. When she saw Jake, she froze for a second. Then she gave a tiny smile. "Good morning," Jake said. She looked at the food, then back at him. "This ... for us? Yeah? It's not alien cooking, but it won't hurt you." Illyra walked in a moment later. Her eyes scanned the room quickly, like she was still unsure about this place. But when she saw the food and her daughter smiling, her shoulders relaxed just a bit. "You didn't have to do this," Illyra said. "Maybe not," Jake replied, "but you're here. Can't ignore that." They sat together and ate quietly. Jake noticed how gentle Illyra was with Luma offering her bites, brushing her hair from her face, whispering kind words in her own language. It was clear she was a good mother. "Maybe. More than good. I have to report to the colony council today," Jake said after they ate. "They'll ask about the crash, and who I brought back." Illyra looked down. "They'll want us gone." "Probably," Jake said honestly. I won't let them take you." Illyra nodded, though her expression didn't ease. Jake left soon after, driving his rover into the colony center. The place was small, just a few dozen homes, one medical hut, a storehouse, and a central meeting hall. People noticed him when he arrived. News of the crash had already spread. Inside the council room, 5 members sat at a long table. Most of them were older settlers who had lived here since the first domes were built. "Jake," said Maria, the lead councilwoman, "what did you bring back?" "A ship crashed," Jake said. "One survivor came to my door." "We heard it was 3, said another man. "His wife and child," Jake admitted. "He left them with me." The room grew tense. "Jake, you." "No, we can't allow unknown aliens here without clearance," Maria said, "especially with the recent tension in nearby sectors." "They're not a threat," Jake replied. "They're running from danger." "And that makes them more of a risk," said an older man named Roger. "What if someone comes looking for them?" "Then we prepare," Jake said. "But I won't turn them away." There was silence. Maria tapped her fingers on the table. "We'll call a vote later. Until then, keep them inside. No movement around the colony. Understood?" Jake gave a short nod and left. Back at home, Illyra waited by the window. When Jake returned, she met him outside. "How bad is it?" asked. "They're afraid," Jake said. "But I won't let them send you away." Illyra lowered her eyes. "Thank you. Can you tell me more?" Jake asked. "Why are they hunting you?" Illyra took a deep breath and looked up at the cloudy sky. Duronik tried to stop. "War." He was once a high commander. Then he spoke out. Said our people needed to change. Yeah, we should talk with others instead of fighting. Some listened. Many didn't. So he was marked as a traitor? Yes, and me with him. They saw our daughter as ... dangerous. She carries his blood, symbol of everything the council fears. "What about you?" Jake asked. "Who were you before?" "A healer," she said simply. "I helped the wounded. I wanted peace." They sat on the steps as Luma played nearby, building shapes in the dirt. She laughed softly as she shaped a little figure with wings and a round head. "That's you," she said to Jake, holding it up proudly. "Is it now?" Jake smiled. "Yes, you protect us." He looked at the little sculpture, then at the girl. She had her father's eyes, but a different spirit, curious, kind, strong, in a quiet way. That night, Jake fixed the roof scanner array, checking for any signs of incoming ships. His fingers moved with care, but his mind wandered. He hadn't expected any of this. He had come to this place to escape war, not invite more of it into his life. But something about the way Alira held her daughter, the way Luma smiled, it reminded him of something he thought he'd lost forever, a family. After finishing repairs, he returned inside. Alira was putting Luma to bed. The little girl asked for a story. Jake watched from the hallway as Alira told one in her native language. Her voice was soft and musical. Luma's eyes slowly closed. When Alira stepped out, Jake handed her a blanket. "This one's thicker," he said. "It gets colder at night." "Thank you," she said. She looked at him for a moment longer than usual. "You were a soldier," she finally said. "How'd you guess?" "Your hands. The way you move. The way you fix things without looking twice." "Yeah," Jake said quietly. "Used to be. Not anymore." "But you still protect people." Jake didn't reply. He just nodded once. Later, he sat outside alone, watching the stars. Thoughts swirled in his mind. Part of him still didn't know why he was doing this. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was duty. Maybe it was something more. But deep down, he knew one thing. He would not fail this family. Not now. Not ever. The days passed quietly at first. Jake kept to his routine morning patrols, equipment checks, small repairs around the house. But now, he was no longer alone. Alira cleaned and cooked using her own alien methods. Luma followed Jake everywhere, full of questions and wonder. "Why is your skin so soft?" Luma asked one morning, touching Jake's hand. "Because I'm human," he said, laughing. "You don't glow like Mommy. I guess I missed the glow lesson." She giggled and went back to drawing on the floor with a stick, making pictures of stars, ships, and a big human figure with wide arms. Jake watched her, smiling to himself. The silence he once craved had become something else. Too quiet when she wasn't around, Lyra slowly adjusted to life at the colony's edge. She remained careful, often checking the skies or listening to wind changes. But she began to talk. More, sharing small stories about her world, about rivers that glowed blue, creatures that sang, and a sky with two suns. "Does your world miss you?" Jake asked one night as they sat outside under the stars. "Sometimes," Alira said, "but my world turned its back on me. Now I only miss the good parts." "Funny," Jake replied. "I say the same about my old life." They sat in silence. Two exiles from different worlds, both carrying scars. Inside the colony, however, the mood was shifting. The council had voted barely. Jake could keep the guests at his home, but they were not allowed to move freely in the colony. No school for Luma. No contact with others. Everything was under watch. Some colonists feared what would happen if the alien pursuers came. Others whispered that Jake had gone soft. A few even suggested the aliens should be turned over to protect everyone else. Jake ignored the talk, but he watched everyone closely. He knew fear made people act strangely. One afternoon, Jake took Luma to the garden near his shed. He wanted to teach her how to grow earth plants, how to dig the soil. Place the seeds, cover them gently. She listened carefully and followed every step. Then she looked up at him and asked, "Do seeds miss their old home too?" Jake paused. "Sometimes, but they grow roots in new places." She nodded as if that made perfect sense. Meanwhile, Alira had been busy rebuilding a small scanner from parts Jake kept in the storeroom. She didn't tell him at first she wanted to help, not be a burden. When Jake finally saw her setup, he was surprised. "You built this from junk?" he asked. "Not junk, just forgotten tools." The scanner worked better than his old one. Picked up distant energy signals. Ships entering nearby systems. Unusual movement. One afternoon, it picked up something strange. An echo of a large ship passing through the outer rim. Moving slowly, scanning as it went. "That's a search pattern," Jake said, eyes narrowing. "There." "Looking for us?" Alira said quietly. They didn't tell Luma. She was too busy making paper birds and learning human words. She had started calling Jake Guardian, and he didn't correct her. Every time she said it, he felt something stir. Deep in his chest, late that evening, Jake sent a message to Maria, the head of the council. "We need to prepare. Enemy scouts are near." "How sure are you?" Maria asked through the screen. "Sure enough to ready the defenses," she sighed. "You've brought this here, Jake." "No. They brought it when they threatened a child." The screen went. Dark. Jake turned to Alira. "We'll need shelter tunnels ready. Food stores packed. Weapons cleaned." "I can help," she said. He looked at her. "You've done enough." "I'm not weak," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I will not sit and hide while you protect us alone." He nodded slowly. "All right then. We work together." For the next few days, they prepared. Jake checked the old defense drones. Some were still functional. Lyra helped reprogram them. Jake trained the few colonists who stood by him. Most were farmers or builders. Not fighters, but they trusted Jake's leadership. As the sun set on the fourth day, Jake stood on the roof with binoculars. Clouds moved slowly across the sky, orange light fading behind the hills. Then he saw it. A distant flash of blue, too smooth to be lightning. The scanner beeped from inside. Ship had entered their system. They had arrived. He climbed down and met Alira near the porch. "It's time," he said. She nodded. "We're ready." He glanced toward the window, where Luma was drawing more figures. She had drawn Jake again, this time with a glowing circle around him. "You look like a hero," she said when Jake walked in. "Just a man trying to protect his home." She smiled and ran to hug him. Jake held her tightly. Deep down, he knew the coming days would not be easy. People after them were not merciful. But Jake had fought worse battles with less reason. This time, he had a reason worth fighting for. The ship appeared just after sunrise. It hovered far above the colony, silent and still, like a shadow waiting to fall. Jake stood outside his house, binoculars in one hand, rifle in the other. Lyra joined him, her face pale but calm. "That's a Royal Scout vessel," she said. "Fast, well-armed, and not here for trade." Jake didn't need her to explain. He could feel it in the air, something heavy, like a storm about to break. "They're scanning," Alira added. "Searching for Luma. They won't find her," Jake said. "Not unless they come down." He had already moved Luma to the underground storage room. It wasn't much, but it was hidden and reinforced. The child didn't understand the danger, but she trusted Jake and her mother. Jake told her, "Stay here and be brave." She simply nodded and hugged him. The colony council gathered in the central hall an hour later. Nervous faces, quiet whispers. No one wanted war. No one wanted trouble. "They haven't made demands yet," Maria said. "But it's clear they're watching us." "They're watching me," Jake corrected. "And the girl." "Can we reason with them?" another council member asked. Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was soft but steady. "No. They don't come to talk. They come to take. If you hand us over, they'll leave for now. But they'll remember this colony. They'll return one day for more." "We don't want violence," Maria said. "Then help us stop it," Jake replied. After some debate, a few colonists agreed to help Jake defend the area around his home. They weren't soldiers, but they trusted him. He showed them how to handle the old rifles, how to spot movement, how to stay low and work together. Lyra helped set up motion sensors and reprogram the drones, even the machines that hadn't. Worked in years buzzed to life under her hands. By sunset, they had a plan. They wouldn't attack unless the enemy landed. But if they did, they'd protect Luma at any cost. The next day passed in silence. The ship remained above Unum. On the third day, it descended, slow and careful. It landed just beyond the colony fence. Its hull was black with golden markings, symbols of royalty and control. 3 figures emerged, Aulians in dark robes. One of them carried a staff with a glowing crystal at the top. They walked toward the colony as if they owned it. Jake met them halfway, rifle slung across his back. The lead alien stepped forward. His voice was deep and clear. "We are here for the child." "Not happening," Jake said. You protect a criminal's bloodline. The child carries forbidden genes. Her existence is dangerous. She's a child, Jake said. She deserves to live free. Her blood could spark rebellion. She will be used or erased. You stand in the way of peace. No, Jake said. I stand in the way of monsters. The alien's eyes narrowed. You have 1 hour. Surrender the child or suffer the consequence. Jake turned and walked away without another word. They prepared quickly. Drones took position. Weapons were loaded. The scanner showed energy buildup from the enemy ship, likely powering up their assault units. Inside the storage room, Jake knelt beside Luma. You stay here, no matter what you hear. Will you come back? She asked, her voice small. I promise, Jake said, placing his hand on her shoulder. I always come back. Lyra kissed her daughter's forehead, whispering words in her own language, words of love, protection, courage. Then they sealed the door. When the attack came, it came fast. 3 transport crafts launched from the ship, carrying armed warriors in black armor. They landed at the colony edge and began marching forward. Energy blasts lit the air. Buildings shook, but Jake's defenses held strong. Drones fired first, cutting through the outer line. Colonists hiding behind cover returned fire. Jake moved like a shadow, leading small teams, never staying in one place too long. His training took over. Clear focus. Lyra stayed near the house, operating the scanner and guiding drone paths. Her hands moved quickly across the screen, eyes sharp. Left side 6 targets, she called out. Jake responded instantly, leading a group to intercept. They lost 2 colonists during the fight, brave ones, but the enemy lost more. For every step they took, they paid in blood and metal. Finally, the attackers fell back. Smoke rose into the sky. The enemy regrouped near their ship, wounded and confused. Then something unexpected happened. From behind the house, Luma stepped into the open. Jake saw her and froze. Luma, go back. But she walked forward, her small body glowing softly. The lead alien saw her and stopped. He raised his staff, ready to strike. But Luma raised her hand, and the crystal in his staff dimmed. The warriors behind him knelt. All of them. Even Jake didn't understand what was happening. Lyra stepped out, eyes wide. They recognize her. Her blood. She carries the symbol of peace that hasn't been seen in centuries. What does that mean? Jake asked. They can't harm her. Not without dishonor. Not without breaking their own ancient laws. The lead alien dropped his staff. She must live, he said quietly, but she cannot remain here. Stays with us, Jake said. Then we leave. For now, they returned to their ship. The engines roared, and then they were gone. Just like that, Lyra ran to Luma and held her tight. Jake followed, kneeling beside them. I told you to stay inside, he said gently, but I wanted to help. She whispered. He smiled and hugged her in the distance. The colonists began to gather, confused but safe. Jake stood and looked at the sky. He didn't know what would come next, but one thing was certain. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were standing for something greater. The enemy ship was gone. The sky was quiet again. But the silence did not feel like peace. It felt like a warning. Jake stood at the edge of the field, watching smoke rise from the burnt edges of the colony. The ground was scarred, and 2 homes had been damaged. Bodies of enemy soldiers lay where they fell, some already being collected by the cleanup team, but the colonists had survived. They had protected their own, and at the center of it all was a little girl who had changed everything. She walked right into danger, Maria said quietly, standing beside Jake. Yes, Jake replied, and they all knelt. I don't understand what she is. I don't think she fully understands it either, Jake said. Inside Jake's home, Lyra sat with Luma, wrapping her in a blanket. The child was calm now, sipping warm broth. And blinking slowly, she seemed a little tired, as if walking into battle had used all her energy. Why did they listen to me, Mama? She asked. Lyra brushed Luma's hair back. 'Cause you carry something inside you. like a sign of an old line that believes in peace, something they thought was lost. When they saw it in your eyes, they remembered, "Am I special?" Luma whispered. "You're loved," Alira answered. "That's enough." Jake walked in and sat across from them. "You did something brave today. You told me to." "Hide," she said with a small smile. "And you didn't listen." "I wanted to help." He couldn't be angry with her. She had saved lives, maybe even the whole colony. That night, the colonists held a quiet meeting. They gathered in the central hall, candles flickering, the air still filled with the smell of smoke and dust. Maria stood and faced the group. "We were attacked, and we fought back. But something happened we didn't expect. The enemy left not because we beat them, but because they saw the girl. They saw what she represents." Some murmurs spread across the room. "We have a choice now," Maria continued. "We can send her away. Maybe that'll keep us safe for a while.
Out.
Or we keep her here and become part of something bigger." One of the farmers stood up. "She's a child. She didn't ask to be special, but she's one of us now." Others agreed. Slowly, one by one, they voted. The final result was clear. Luma would stay. Jake was the last to speak. "She saved you. She saved me. And if her father was here, he'd know his debt was truly repaid. But I'm not keeping her because of some promise. I'm keeping her because she's part of my family now." Alira, listening from the back of the room, felt tears touch her cheeks. Days turned into weeks. Repairs were made. Crops were planted again. Colonists returned to their routines. But the colony was different now. People came to visit Jake's house not just to ask questions, but to talk, to bring food, to smile at Luma and hear her stories. Ira became the colony's new healer. Her knowledge of alien medicine, herbs, and treatments helped save 3 lives in the first month. Even those who had feared her began to trust her. Jake, once known as the quiet ex-soldier, became something more. He was seen as a leader not by title, but by action. People followed him because they believed in him. But something still worried. Oh, Jake. The enemy ship had left. But what if it returned with others? What if Luma's bloodline made her a target forever? "They'll come again," Jake said one evening, as he sat with Alira outside. "Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but one day." "Then we'll be ready," Alira said. "We can't keep running or hiding. Luma needs a life, a real one." "You're thinking about leaving?" she said quietly. "No," Jake answered. "I'm thinking about building something bigger." Alira looked at him with calm eyes. "A safe place? For people like her? Like you? Like us?" She nodded slowly. "A home." They both looked toward the stars. A few nights later, a ship landed quietly outside the colony, small and unmarked. It was piloted by an old friend of Jake's from his military days. Man had been looking for a place to settle, away from war and politics. Jake had sent a message. Now the friend brought supplies, spare parts, and knowledge. "What are you planning, Jake?" the man asked. "A safe network. Shelters across space. For families caught in wars that aren't theirs. For those who are hunted not because they did wrong, but because they were born different. You starting a rebellion?" "No, I'm starting a future." And so it began. A hidden beacon was built under the colony. Messages were sent in secret. 2 other planets. Quiet talks began with those who remembered the old peace symbols. Slowly, small ships started arriving, bringing families, scholars, healers, and warriors who believed in a better way. Luma, once the frightened child of a hunted man, became a symbol of hope. Not just because of her bloodline, but because of her smile, her kindness, her courage. She was the child of 2 worlds. She had brought them together. Jake stood by her side through it all, and though he had once lived alone, he now knew family wasn't just about blood. It was about love, protection, and choice. 3 months had passed since the royal ship left. The colony had returned to life, but something deeper had changed. People worked with more purpose. They smiled more. And they often stopped by Jake's home not just out of curiosity, but because it had become something special. It was no longer just a shelter. It was a symbol. Luma was now known by all, Wherever she went, she brought joy. Even the quietest colonists found themselves laughing when she came around. She asked about their animals, their gardens, their machines. She wasn't just the child of an alien leader. She was a bright light in a place that had once been filled with silence and fear. Elira had found her place too. The healing room Jake built for her became a center of care. She worked with human tools and alien herbs, mixing knowledge from both worlds. The colonists trusted her now. She listened more than she spoke, and people respected that. Jake watched it all with quiet pride. His home, once meant to keep people away, was now a place of gathering. Still kept his rifle near, still checked the scanners every day, but not out of fear. It had become part of his routine, part of keeping his new family safe. But deep down he still wondered, was this peace real? Or just the calm before something worse? His answer came one morning, just before sunrise. The scanner beeped sharply. Jake rushed to the screen. It wasn't just one ship this time, it was 3. Moving in tight formation, fast, heavy. He woke. Elira first. We need to move her underground, he said. Ira, single quotes, as face turned serious. She nodded without speaking and went to wake Luma. Luma didn't panic. She had grown stronger. She looked at her mother and then at Jake. They're coming. Again. She asked. Yes, Jake said, but we'll protect you. I believe you, she whispered. They led her to the shelter under the house. This time, it was filled with supplies, food, water, communication tools. They had learned from the last attack. You stay here, Jake said, kneeling down to her level. No matter what happens above, we'll come back for you. Promise. She hugged him tightly. I'll wait. Elira and Jake returned to the surface. The ships arrived. They didn't land immediately. They hovered above, sending down messages. This time, there were no demands. Just silence. Until one ship opened its hatch. A figure stepped out. Tall, proud, and very familiar. Jake raised his binoculars. His eyes widened. It's him, he whispered. Elira gasped, Darenic. Jake didn't wait. He ran toward the clearing near the colony gates. Lyra followed close behind. When they reached the landing zone, the figure stepped closer and removed his helmet. It was not alive. Worn, tired, older, but alive. You left her with me? Jake said. Almost. Breathless. I had no choice, Darenic said. I was being hunted. I led them away, made them believe I was dead. I stayed hidden until the storm passed. Lyra stepped forward slowly. You survived all this time? Yes, he said, his voice softer. But not as a leader, just as a father who had to disappear. Why come back now? Jake asked. Because word spread, Darenic said. It's not just that you protected them, but that the colony became a place of hope. Ships began moving. People began talking. Peace symbols started appearing again. My enemies are losing their grip, and it started here. He looked at Jake, then at Elira. I don't come to take them back. I came to see if they're happy and safe. Elira's eyes filled with tears. We are. Darenic smiled faintly. How? Then my debt is complete. Jake stepped forward. You could stay. Build something here. My time is past, Darenic said. The future belongs to her, and to those who protect her. Just then, the shelter door opened, and Luma came running out. Father ran into his arms, and he held her tightly. They stood that way for a long time. Jake and Elira watched silently later. They all sat together under the tall tree near the home. Luma lay across both her parents' laps, half asleep. What now? Jake asked. You lead, Darenic said. You protect her? It's not because of the promise, but because you already love her as your own. I do, Jake said. Darenic placed something small in Jake's hand. A silver ring with ancient alien writing. This belonged to my family. Now it belongs to yours. The next day, Darenic left. His ship rose quietly into the sky and disappeared beyond the clouds. No war followed. No attack came. Instead, more. Families began arriving, those tired of war, those seeking peace. Humans and aliens alike. They called the colony Haven. Its name spread across systems. Jake and Alira married in a small ceremony under the stars. No fancy decorations, just candles, friends, and Luma holding both their hands. Years passed. Luma grew taller, wiser. She studied both human history and alien traditions. She became a voice for peace. And when visitors asked about her story, she always pointed to Jake and said, "He's not just my guardian, it's my father." And Jake, once a soldier who wanted silence, became the builder of something new. A home, a future, a family.